Hello and welcome to EGW Writings Tech Tips. I'm your host, Daryl Thompson. Thank you for joining us today in another of our series on learning how to use the new EGW Writings 2 app for Android. Now, what I'm going to be showing you today is My Library. My Library, you ask? Well, let's think of My Library like two apps in one. My Library is like a separate section of the app that you can use for daily reading and keeping track of the books that you want to read from cover to cover. Very similar to Kindle Books and Google Books. Now, in Kindle Books, you're able to go to your bookshelf, open up the book, pick up from where you last left off. When you finish reading it, put it down, come back the next day or the next week, and continue on reading. Now, you can do exactly the same thing within My Library. If you open a book from My Library, it will keep track of that page from where you left off. Now remember, if you open the book from My Library and you go search within My Library, it will then pick up that new location because you opened and searched from My Library. So just read My Library for reading. And then close, go back to the home screen and pick up and navigate through search or navigate through all collections if you just want to generally do browsing. So use My Library for reading, all collections for browsing and searching. Now, to show you how to do this, let's dive right into the app. Now, My Library is another feature which is very useful. Many of you may have used Google Books, or maybe you've used Kindle Books, and you're quite used to, on your bookshelf, being able to read and pick up from the exact location that you last left off. So we've basically essentially built two apps in one here. We have built like the Kindle reader and a standard Bible app as it was, because Bible apps are great for searching and navigating and finding quotes and things. If I came in here in our old version of our app that we had back in version 3, and if I clicked on search and then I went and navigated through Patriarchs and Prophets, it would update my reading history in Patriarchs and Prophets to where I search for and open it up. And that gets annoying because maybe I want to read through the book, so I'd have to create a bookmark. But no more with My Library. With My Library, the great thing is in here is if I tap on My Library, it will basically return me to the last location that I'm in. So I'm in chapter 1, but say I get to the end of chapter 1 and then I've come to the next day and I'm down to about here in the book. So if I'm Prophets and Kings 35 and I basically come in here and I go, okay, I'm done reading for the day, and I navigate back, I'm on the home screen and I close out the app. I'll just swipe out the app here and I'll come back and I will open up the app again the next day and I tap on My Library and it'll automatically take me exactly back to the reading location that I was last reading. Now, say for example that I am searching in Prophets and Kings. So if I come into Prophets and Kings, I'll show you how it doesn't get affected. So I'll search within Prophets and Kings and I'll search for David. Okay. And now you can see here I've got many results in Prophets and Kings, and I'll come down to a later page that I was on, page 99, and I'm reading away here in 99. Now that's coming in from search. In my history, all right, it will say here that I'm on Prophets and Kings 101.2. But if I come in here to My Library and I open up My Library, okay, it's back to where I was and not at 108 and not back at 102. So it takes me back to the location where I actually was in My Library. So, you can navigate around wherever you want, okay? I'm navigating around. I'm reading in Prophets and Kings. Like I'm in chapter 1. Let's come back like in chapter 1. And I will go back out of My Library. All right, so navigate back out of My Library all the way back into the app. I can go that from home. I can jump into my history, and my history tells me exactly where I was. But now let's come back and repeat that search for David. Let's pop into page 45. All right, so here we are in 45. And then I'll come back out here, go back to home, because I search for that, click on my library, go back into English, into books, Prophets and Kings, and it takes me back into chapter 1 where I was. So chapter 1, if I navigate and search from within my library, it will change that. But if I don't do that and navigate and search from any other collection from the home screen, it treats the search different from the reader. And you can navigate in two separate aspects. You can keep a book for reading and you can keep a book for searching and navigating. So we've built two histories within the app, the My Library history and then the history of the app. Now, if the history combines, this history combines the reading and it combines the My Library. So if I tap here, it will take me into there. But if I come in from My Library, it will come in from my reading history. So it keeps those two separate. So you can be confident in reading through. Now, if you're in My Library and you want to delete a book, that's no problems. You can come into your books here. And if I click on, say, I'm in reading and I want to take child guidance out, I can delete once again from my device or I can delete from the cloud. And if I delete it from the cloud, it removes it from everywhere. If I delete the book just from my device, then it removes it from my library from this device, but doesn't remove it from any other devices that may be synced in. So that's the separation of My Library between the cloud and your device. So in the tutorial we just went through on My Library, we learned how to use it for reading, just like you would in Kindle books. The EGW Writings app was built like two apps in one, as I said. You've got My Library, use that for your daily reading and keeping track within a book of what you're reading through. So say it's Patriarchs and Prophets and I'm reading through the book. Don't use it for searching, just use My Library for reading. If you want to search, then close the My Library, go back to the home screen and then open it up through search or all collections, the book that you're trying to read from another selection. My Library is purely for keeping track of your reading history of a book that you want to read from cover to cover. I'm Daryl Thompson. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial today and that you will be blessed as you continue to use the EGW Writings app from day to day. Have a nice day for now.